Director of Training and Client Business Support. We've got our weekly update here with some late breaking information regarding the FedEx and Amazon announcement. So I want to thank everybody for joining us here. If you have any questions, as always, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A. And without further ado, I'll turn this over to Jeff Walczak.
All right, Ken, you remember that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Corporation. Keep in mind that eTruckBiz is the home of the business support system. What is that? That's budget IQ, performance IQ, and admin IQ. This system combines expert admin teams, powerful software tools, and efficient processes that are used to streamline your operation, which ultimately results in reaching your financial goals. And a new thing out there right now is the latest and greatest functionality, piece of new functionality is Timekeeper IQ. You can go to iq.etruckbiz.com, take a look at what's going on there. So to see the latest eTruckBiz IQ innovation. And for information on any of these programs, anything to do with eTruckBiz, make sure, most of you already know, you can contact Becca Manders at becca@etruckbiz.com. Okay, as we always do, first thing we're going to look at, and yes, we're going to get to the Amazon information here shortly, but there's a couple of things real quick. We always do. We take a look at the volume because it's real important, right? And actually, volume is going to become even more so important coming up. But anyway, pickup stops. At least the stops are on the trend, but the packages are way under the trend line. But if you look at where we're at today versus this day last year, there's a 14% increase over this week last year. So yes, we're below the trend line, but we're doing better than last year. Same thing on the delivery side. The stops and packages are back at the trend line, but that's a 27% increase over last year at this time. And then productivity, big move up. That's good job. 3% year-over-year improvement in productivity at this time last year. So productivity is going to become even more important as we move forward, and that's a good job.
103 stops per dispatch. I love it.
Huge. We had, just so you know, we had a whole different presentation all queued up, and guess what happened yesterday? The announcement came out that is going to change everybody's lives that's on this call right now. There's our friends at Amazon. So what happened? Was it 2019, Ken?
That is correct. 2019, where FedEx walked away from the Amazon business.
Now, that's not what some of the reports are showing. Some of the reports are showing that Amazon dumped FedEx, but it's not what happened.
Tomato.
What happened was FedEx didn't want anything to do with the unprofitable side of the business anymore. Why would you want to do something that's unprofitable? So they got rid of it. Guess what Amazon did? They took it over to UPS. So here you go, Mr. UPS, Postal Service. Other things happened, and let's go through the story here. But please keep in mind that the slides and everything we're going to talk about here, this just happened yesterday. So the partnership between FedEx and Amazon is a significant development, not only for FedEx folks, but really in the transportation industry in general. The collaboration focuses on large residential packages, which is an important and growing segment of the market. Now, the headlines are showing that it's all about residential incompatibles, if you want to know the truth, what it is. But that's not the whole story. So we're going to go through, if some of you have done some research already, or I'm sure social media is flying around out there with all kinds of different things. It's not the whole story. We're going to try to go through that. But anyway, for FedEx contracted service providers, this partnership creates both opportunities and challenges that need to be navigated. CSPs will need to understand the implications of this process and how it's going to impact your business. You'll need to, we're going to talk about identifying ways to capitalize on these opportunities while also addressing the potential changes that are about to arise. Let's first of all try to understand what's going on here. The partnership we're talking about centers on like we said, the headline is large residential packages. Just know that these packages are highly profitable for FedEx. Are they highly profitable for contractors? No, they're not. Should they be? If you ask us, we would probably tell you that they need to have contractors participate, and we're going to get there in a minute. But the point of this is they're profitable, right? This segment is expected to drive at least a 10% increase in overall package volume, as UPS has reduced its focus on less profitable areas like large residential packages. This represents a significant market shift as UPS previously handled a lucrative segment that FedEx is now poised to capitalize on through this new partnership. So let's keep going. Now, who wins here? First of all, one of the winners are FedEx line haul contractors who will see additional dedicated runs and more route assignments as volume grows, especially within the Amazon segment there, right? Also, FedEx shareholders will benefit from the profitable business injection as Amazon's large packages fetch higher margins and smaller parcels. So here's the thing about this, and there's not necessarily something that you're going to find out there about this yet, but there's also, in addition to the large packages and incompatibles, there's also a segment of Amazon's business, and some of you know this, some of you don't. We'll just review it. There's sometimes you could go on Amazon, order something, and it doesn't necessarily come from an Amazon warehouse. It would come direct from the vendor or direct from the supplier, whatever you want to call it. Let's say you order a lamp. That lamp doesn't necessarily go to the Amazon distribution center and then come to your house. It might come right from the place that made the lamp. So that part of the business that Amazon is going after is growing rapidly, right? That part of this market is connected to those incompatibles. You get a better way of saying that, Ken?
No, that's a great because Amazon never wants to handle those incompatibles either from a transportation standpoint or from a warehousing standpoint because it slows down their processes, increases their costs. So therefore, they want that product to go straight from the vendor to the customer.
Now, there's all kinds of things that happen there, right? So let's just say that lamp that's coming from the lamps are us. Instead of it going on a truckload trailer to an Amazon DC, it winds up on a FedEx trailer and goes directly to the consumer. So that's actually really good. Not just that's good for FedEx contractors. So we'll just put it that way. That's going to be increased volume. And it's not all necessarily incompatibles, although that's what is grabbing the headlines right now. Okay, so now we talked about some of the winners, but the winners in our space right here are going to be those that are already positioned for growth. The key opportunity for P&D contractors is their ability to scale operations rapidly to meet growing demand. So it's not just scaling, it's adjusting to what's going to be needed. We're going to talk about that here in a second. It's a little more than just putting on another truck. Contractors managing multiple facilities are well positioned to handle the complexity of these large scale delivery operations. But freight, then it changes a lot of different things. We already talked about this. Residential routes become more efficient with vendor direct volume, not necessarily incompatibles, but volume that's coming that otherwise wouldn't be in your trucks, right? And then some delivery service providers struggle to adapt. Those who struggle to adapt to market conditions are going to open up opportunities for others. That's why we've been telling you for a long time, multi-facility operators are going to get their shot at greatness, if you want to put it that way, because some of the folks are going to definitely now with Network 2.0 and now an increase in different types of volume, there's going to be opportunities for those who want them.
Can I add something, Jeff?
Yes.
Also, it should increase the number of pickups you have and the number of packages that you pick up from a location. There's coattail business involved. It's just as easy for them to continue to ship with FedEx rather than switch that machine over to UPS. So therefore, many of those packages will now end up picked up on your vehicles. And then, of course, when they're picked up on your vehicles, they're going to end up being delivered on somebody else's, some other CSP vehicles, or even your own.
This is I guess what we're trying to say is this is a way bigger deal than at first meets the eye. There's a lot of things going on here. Okay. So what are some of the challenges? Large packages often max out the capacity of standard delivery trucks, forcing contractors to dispatch additional vehicles at greater cost. Knew that. It's not just your vans, right? Hubs traditionally don't do well with incompatible volume. So, Ken, as an ex-hub manager, what are some of the things that happen when you get a large influx of incompatibles?
It completely changes the dynamic. If a hub is rated for 40,000 packages per hour, that's a mix of incompatibles at 7%, hopefully smalls at 14%, and the remainder are going over the top, which are the sorter. But now all of a sudden, if your incompatibles are at 14%, do you have the capability of running 40,000 packages per hour through that hub? Maybe. But what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to add capacity in the unload because, needless to say, the standard unload rate is 1,049 for packages. It's certainly not that for incompatible. And what does it do? It congests your incompatible belt that moves somewhere around 60 feet per minute, and you can't speed that up. You lose capacity or you have to add manning. And when you add manning without increasing your throughput, it lowers your productivity. Henceforth, on the P&D side, if you have to put on more trucks, it lowers your stops per dispatch. I guess that's probably the best way I can relate it.
That's one of the things for sure. But what happens to dispatches typically when sorts are extended because they
What
can't get it
happens
up?
then is that you'll get pushed later if you've got a planned sort time based off of 40,000 package per hour, and that sort's supposed to end at 7:30, and guess what? You only do 38,000 per hour for 8 hours. You got problem. You're going to extend your sort at least 2 more hours.
And extended sorts lead to
Late
late.
dispatches and later arrivals at the satellite stations.
So one of the terms we've been throwing around for the last couple of years is something called wave dispatches or different dispatch times. Typically, what happens today is trailers come in, you unload them, put them on the trucks, and they all leave, usually all at once. If hub sort times increase and trailers can't make it, you can't just keep pushing back the sorts. So what are you going to have to do?
Add a second dispatch. And this could play along with time definite routes as well. Did they return to the building and come back and grab this stuff?
So we've been talking about different types of dispatches, right? And if you're going to have different dispatch times, different waves, you might as well have different things that go out on those different waves. So really what we're trying to tell you is really it comes back to the hubs not being able to run that much through there fast enough. It's going to make your operations a lot more complex than even 2.0 was going to do in the first place. If you have multiple dispatches and different types of dispatches, that's going to be very challenging to sort out and run. Right now, having said all of that, these packages, especially incompatibles, they take up more space. At some point, because they take up more space and are more difficult to handle and are going to extend sorts and going to do all these things to the operation, if it really comes to fruition like it is, we're just going to go ahead and say this. And I don't know if I got another slide where it says it someplace else. They're going to have to adjust the settlement issue. It's not there's no question about it anymore. The whole reason they charge customers more for these packages is because they cost more to handle. They cost more to transport. They cost more to do. They take up more cubic capacity. Your settlements are going to have to be adjusted in some way, shape, or form to handle this. Now, there's a couple of different ideas running around out there right now, and I don't want to start anything, but we'll just say this. They cost more, the revenue's more. Yeah, it'd be great if you could deliver these packages at the same efficiency rates as you do an envelope, but it doesn't happen right now. A lot of people say there's already the large package charge. That's nice if you have some incompatibles that go with the regular packages. That's okay. But not when you're gonna wind up making dispatches. If this comes to fruition, you're gonna wind up making incompatible dispatches, right? And you can't do that. You can't deliver 15 stops of tires or whatever it is at regular package and stop rates. That's gonna drive everybody out of business, and that doesn't do FedEx any good. All right. Now I know that's the first thing when you guys, for the most part, when everybody saw this, the first thing you thought of was, oh my gosh, these things are going to cost a fortune and I got to put more dispatches out there. And you know what? You might be right, but they're going to have to address that. Now, are they going to address it and shower everybody with money? Probably not. You're still going to have to watch productivity, efficiency rates, all kinds of things are going to have to be watched. But we would expect something to happen on the settlement side of the house. Ken, you going to say something about that?
Yeah, you're going to have to prove your numbers. Anytime that you go for a renegotiation or a negotiation, FedEx is going to want to know what your cost is. So you're going to know what your cost, you want to know what your cost per dispatch is now. And then you're going to want to know what this impact will be. Just because you get more incompatibles doesn't mean your cost per dispatch is going to go down. No, it's probably going to at least stay the same and it might increase. So knowing your numbers is always important. And then being able to present that data to FedEx seems to go a long way. I think Carrie could back me up with that. She's the expert in this area.
You're on the right track. Absolutely.
Well, the key is being able to track those expenses and whatnot. And we have been working on a way to make that as easy as we can figure out how to make it for you guys. And that's something that now that this has happened, we're going to have to bring to the forefront. Probably next week at this time, we'll be talking about a new way. It's our program Budget IQ. That's a lot of you know what that means already. You've already gone through the business evaluation, but there's another level of expense tracking that's on the way. Just put it that way. So fear not. We're gonna address that. All right. This also has an impact on UPS. The loss of the lucrative Amazon package delivery business has a significant impact on UPS's volume and revenue. With Amazon packages now moving to FedEx, UPS is facing increased financial pressure and at a competitive disadvantage. UPS will need to make operational adjustments to make up for the lost volume and maintain its market position against a strengthened FedEx. So that some of the new union rules, and you've seen this out there reported already, have really forced some of the volume off of those trucks, which you could say that's good that those incompatibles aren't on those trucks. UPS is in no place right now to be giving up any kind of profitable business. It's probably the worst thing that could happen to them that these packages find their way to FedEx trucks. All right, just note, and if UPS starts becoming a little more weak, guess what they're going to do? They're going to try to discount because there's not too much they can do, but they can't. The more they discount with a higher cost structure, it's just could be a spiral for our friends at UPS. So watch out there. There could be some things happening there. All right, now all this comes together at the same time. FedEx is about to hit the gas on Network 2.0 implementation. Couldn't have come at a better time, right? So we just talked about specialized wave dispatches. That's probably something coming sooner rather than later. Those of you with Network 2.0 packets, you actually, we've said this before, but you actually see some notation on there about the first dispatch, the second, or the preload, first preload, second preload, third preload. The need to have, I think I got another slide that says something about capacity, cubic capacity. But another thing here is, especially as the operation becomes more complex, it's going to become even more important to watch your metrics and not necessarily yesterday's or last week's or whatever. You're going to have to watch what's going on during the day. So your BC, let's just go ahead and get this out there. Your BC really is not going to be able to drive. Jeff, I got to get my BC to drive. That's the only way I can make any money. Okay. But your BC, and we've said this before too, really needs to become what amounts to a dispatcher. A dispatcher's job is to watch what's going on and move resources around, make pickups at the right times, get this truck over there, do that over. That's going to end up being basically the central role of a BC, not necessarily a fill-in driver or anything else. The complexity of the operation is going to get to the point where somebody's got to be watching the actual operation as it happens, not necessarily later in track.
On top of that, Jeff, is at the station, things are going to happen later and later. So if your BC's covering a route and he's got to get out of the building at 8:30 in the morning, who's going to handle the 10 o'clock dispatch? Who's going to make sure that the time definite driver that I have come back at 12:30 is going to pick up those incompatibles that are sitting on the floor over there? Once again, the role of the BC's changing. Okay.
Which means BC is not going to be able to do some of the things the BC used to do. So here's another issue right now. I know a lot of folks are going to bring this up. Long story short, if you have a bunch of cutaways or account lines or whatever in your operation, the days for those types of trucks are gone. If you get higher cubic dimension, more packages that take up more cubic space, the only thing you can do is, if that's the kind of trucks you have, is to put another dispatch on the road, right? And what happens when you put another dispatch on the road?
More miles, more maintenance, more risk of accidents.
Now, that problem is compounded right now because guess what? If you look around for any step vans right now, especially 1,000 cubes, 1,200s, I'm not sure about 700s, even though I'm sure they're getting scarce now. There aren't any right now to get your hands on. That's going to be a problem, folks. And if you have a bunch of cutaways and whatnot in your operation, we need to talk, because that is going to be a huge problem. Now, one of the good things that's going to happen here, yes, there's going to be more incompatibles, no question about that. And yes, they're going to go to residences. That's not so cool. But that direct, vendor direct to your door or to the residence, whatever you want to call that. Isn't there a name for that? Somebody in the chat, if there's a name for that. Amazon calls it something, direct from vendor or something. Anyway, that's good volume, and that's going to increase your density on your residential areas. That's good. But guess what? It's going to be next to a whole bunch of incompatibles. That's not so good. So there's some good things here, bad things here. Watching your expenses, not just in total, all the way down to the per dispatch level, is of huge importance here. And if you can show our friends at FedEx what your expenses are looking like, that for sure, without question at this point, is grounds for a renegotiation. That's something you definitely want to be able to show them. We'll help you with this, but don't let this keep on going and say, I don't know, I guess it's all these incompatibles and everything. They want to know. You're going to have to show them that, hey, my expenses are out of whack and I can't stay in business. Again, it's not in their interest to drive everybody out of business. That's not what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make money for their shareholders, and they're trying to provide an opportunity for you guys. It's just how, we handle that. And if it costs us a hell of a lot more, then we're going to have to let them know.
Jeff, your one point here, route engineering, invest in FRO. I can't stress that enough. The dynamic FRO is going to route based off of cubic utilization. It will move bulk stops. It will move so that is switching to dynamic FRO we've said it for the last 2 years with Network 2.0, but it becomes even more critical now as the packages get bigger. Let that system sort based off of your cubic utilization of the vehicles.
Following the route path, filling the vans. We've been all over the country and there's empty vans. They think they're full, but they're not full. You got to get the volume in there. You can do it.
They're going to be full now.
Yeah, if your driver's jumping from section 1,000 back to 7,000, guess what they have to do? They have to walk through the truck. If they deliver it in by SID number, they can load that truck and you can get that cubic capacity, because the FedEx 330 cubic foot capacity of utilization on a P1000 is not a full truck. I think they even said it at last year's event in Orlando. They said 650. And I remember, thought there was an earthquake because there was a lot of rumbling. We were outside of that building and there was a lot of rumbling going on, but 330 is not going to cut it. And you can get more on there if your drivers are following the travel path.
Which means what? Drivers like to get their stops and order them how they want to do it. Are they going to be able to do that anymore?
No, they need to run your place. They need to run what order that the truck is loaded or supposed to be loaded. I'm not going to give the preloader that much credit. What it's supposed to be.
Got to go off the plan. All right. And now, again, the slide says a bunch of things, but one of the things for sure, anytime you make any kind of change comes to a particular work area, CSA, contractor, whatever, first thing you do is what? We got to up our recruiting game, because guess what's going to happen? Guess what's happening right now? Guess what happened last night? A bunch of drivers got on every social media, everything they could find, and boy, oh boy, they're not going to work, and they're not going to carry around incompatibles, and they're not going to load the truck in the order that they're supposed to. You're going to have to communicate with your top folks, tell them what's going on. Just be honest with them. Hey, here comes the volume. We're going to have to do something about it. Yes, Yes, every truck, one way or another, is going to have some incompatibles on it. Yes, it's probably going to fill the aisleway. No, you can't start delivering out of section 6 first because that's where the driver says they want to go first for some reason. No, just you gotta work with me here, folks. And the folks that want to fight you, I mean, especially now, the folks that want to fight you, you got 2.0 Lumen, and now this situation. You're gonna have to do something about the folks that want to fight you. That's just,
And they're going to have less places to go. They could fight you on getting done at 2:30 because maybe the CSP across the belt doesn't have a problem with that. But guess what? The CSP across the belt doesn't have any choice in Network 2.0 and delivering the 10:30s and the noons, and they're not going to have any choice in delivering these incompatible packages. So there's less and less places for the people to say they're going to get up and walk on out of this place to go.
all right. So crew drivers for sure. Last couple 3 weeks, we've been trying to talk about, is your BC really the person you want running the show? You can look at your current business results and guess why you have them. It's probably because your BC is doing what the BC is doing. So now it's time to really look hard at both of those situations, because if you're going to make it through here, there's tons of opportunity out there, right? You're going to get offered, and some of you that are on here already have, you're going to get offered multi-facilities, and as long as you can demonstrate you can handle it, they're going to give you as much as you can handle. So if you can build operations that grow with increasing volume, good job. Some of you are great at that. Try to remain flexible. I know everybody wants to scream and here we go, I got it. And in a lot of cases, you're right, but we got to remain flexible. Look at the business support system. Remember what we said about the BC, and actually you are not going to be able to take care of a bunch of the things that you do now. So typing in your payroll, doing your own recruiting, keeping track of different things. As the operation becomes more complex, especially if you're in multiple facilities, you're just not going to be able to do that anymore. That's what the business support system's all about. And that's what you're doing right now. A lot of you are on this call, you're anticipating change rather than reacting to them. So you're not waiting until all of a sudden one day you come in and, hey, what's this? How come there's twice as many incompatibles? You know it's coming. So what can we do about it? All right. Now we'll get to, I know we got a lot of questions, a lot of comments. We knew that was going to happen.
Let's go to the chat first. It says, first one was a comment that no, they are not profitable for contractors. We agree.
We
Absolutely agree. And
Not
said,
getting
texting my brother, an Amazon exec over on West Coast, large package facilities for Amazon. He said that his Salt Lake City facility, 40% of the volume goes to UPS. And he said that most of that volume is now coming to us. It's on the way.
Yeah, it shouldn't be yet. I don't think you've seen too much yet.
Yes. So FedEx pays no money for much needed BC. FedEx needs to address this right now. Actually, in the budget of your contract, FedEx and the local station management will tell you they budget you 1 BC for every 10 dispatches. Our model uses like 14, I think, Jeff, correct?
Yes,
But
sir.
yeah, but FedEx is going to tell you it's 1 for 10 dispatches per day. So where we see a lot of inefficiency is a 6 dispatch per day operation that has 2 BCs. We run 7 days a week. Okay. How many dispatches do you have on Sunday and Monday? 3. Okay. Do you need a BC for that? No, you could probably get away with a lead driver. It just doesn't support it. Like I said, FedEx is going to tell you 1 BC for 10 dispatches. Our model, we're not as giving as them. All right. So the next one, what is the projected start date for this. That was not in the release, was it, Jeff?
No, but that it's gotten this far where they released some information to the media, and they've released it big time because it's everywhere. They're probably ready to go.
Yeah, a date to think about is May 31st, 2025. That ends the fiscal year for FedEx. So June 1st of 2025 begins fiscal year 2026 for FedEx. So I would think it would be right around that time period, be a convenient time. Okay. Given the focus on time definites, we need a way to select businesses and elevate those stops on our eRoute software. We are now down to a window of 1031, 459 for businesses. We are finding a greater challenge to our business stops since we are eating up the first 90 minutes solely focused on TDs. I think I understand what the question is. Yeah, your 1030s are your first round of business stops. Then you have noons that are technically residential stops. So I think that's where you're eating. That's what you're saying. That's eating that time up. Where then, okay, who's doing the Walmarts? Who's doing the Targets? Who's doing the Home Depots that expect delivery by 11 o'clock in the morning? I think that's the way I'm interpreting it. Jeff, you the same?
I think one of the things he's also saying, and guys, we would like to open up the microphone, except we don't want to necessarily get everything going crazy. There's not necessarily a way to separate residentials and businesses from the feeds that we get from FedEx. Now, not sure that's not going to change somehow. It might be able to. That's the only way we could do that. Yeah.
If you guys could, when you guys talk to FedEx, the terminals, and their DRO people, their FRO people, I've been requesting for 2 years that you can make an anchor, business anchor, and then it prioritizes that. Request the option, or the ability to make a business anchor. And that way you could target your big downtown sections or your off the highway where you got all the shops and the malls and everything else. And that way we could set those up, and it identifies as a business anchor and says, okay, hey, we need to get these off by 5 as well. So you could request, that would be great. Any help out there would be awesome. I think if everyone does, and that's something that they would make that they would make happen.
But you can see how when we're talking about different types of dispatches, you can see that coming.
Yes, without a doubt. I know that's in your situation. Are you better off running some time definites and then coming back for some incompatibles? I don't know if that's possible. Utilize 2 part-timers for that, 1 full-timer for that. But if you have to put that extra resource on, can I make it a productive dispatch?
And that's what we're talking about, monitoring what's going on. So there's one thing to try to sort out the complexity to try to get it done. That's fantastic. But if you do that, throwing revenue and expenses to the wind, oh boy, that's going to be trouble.
Yeah, and FedEx is going to have to change their thinking on this too. Their whole goal is, okay, we got the preload wrapped up by 10 o'clock. Guess what we got to do? We got to get our service audit in. We got to, if anything's left on the package, got to be a DNA. I got to assign it to somebody, so I got to scan that. No, they're going to have to understand that you're going to have drivers returning and picking up those packages where they are, and they might have a staging area for those. Some of the stations have great staging areas now where vans can park up back up outside. Boom, your guy or girl comes and loads those and then goes back out for their second trip. So remember, a driver delivering a van is not a work day. What's on that van? They're going to complete a shift. Okay. Given the focus, again, I've come across several days lately where DRO numbers have been way off. Our terminal in particular has sorted an extra IC trailer on 2 without notice. I would definitely bring that concern to the station. I would also encourage you to use historic information. The historic information is combined with the DRO, gives you the most accurate prediction of what's going to happen. But if a station's going to run an extra trailer, I would make it known to them that they have to communicate that with you. Okay. If they don't, document it. And then when you sit down for your QBR, your quarterly business review, make sure that you discuss it with them. Anything to add to that, Jeff?
This says I've come across several delays where DRO numbers are off. I hate to say this. It's probably going to get worse before it gets any better.
How would you go about trying to negotiate current negotiations with this new Amazon information? You can only prepare, is what I would say, and then Carrie can add to this, knowing your current stops per dispatch, your current revenue per dispatch, and your current dispatches per week, and then what your cost per dispatch is. Having that information ready, and then, okay, let's see what happens as this onslaught of incompatibles and other home delivery packages come into play. Carrie, you want to add to that?
With incompatibles, if you're going to complain about not having enough room, then you better be able to back that up with numbers. There goes your cost model. Make sure you can fill that information sheet out and back up the numbers, what the cost is compared to the volume or the size of the incompatibles. And when you're complaining, you have to back that up, and they will listen. If we can prove the numbers and you're running very efficiently, that's the other thing. Make sure that you're utilizing the capacity you have, then you have a valid argument.
So the station has two forms. They have an exchange of information form and a cost sheet. Sometimes they request one, sometimes they request the other. See if you can get that from the station now and complete it now. Would you agree with that, Carrie?
That's a great idea. Be ahead of the ball.
All right. Are we going to see a dip in volume due to tariffs and port volume being 50% before this ramps up?
Actually, I had some data that was what we were gonna show that today. Actually, railroad volume is still up 4 and 5%. I don't have a slide for that. I had a slide for the presentation that was supposed to be for today. So folks are moving stuff that's already in warehouses here around. That's what it looks like. I don't know. I don't think there's still port volume. What did it say? Somebody said
port volume was reported down last week by as much as 50%. So
yeah, I don't know was it coming into the United States? Did they take it and put it in Canada or Mexico and then they'll move it later? People still got to sell stuff. So, they're going to get into their old bag of tricks trying to send a shipload of lamps to Canada, let it sit there until smoke clears or something. I don't think that's a problem yet. And if you want to look at it this way, let's say volume does go down. Guess what's happening for contractors? One, the express volume, the Trent Network 2.0 volume's coming over anyway. So that should help you out and increase your situation. And then if you get incompatibles coming from UPS, Amazon, wherever they come from, your volume's probably not going to be affected as much as maybe somebody else's would.
There are literally hundreds of opening contracting opportunities within the 28 terminals in my area, all within 200 miles. Opportunities stay open on Build-A-Biz for years unfilled. That being said, there's nearly zero interest amongst active local contractors because the contract revenue is so low versus the CapEx and risk. Do you think FedEx will
That keeps happening to me too.
Do you think FedEx will ever incentivize a CSP to expand to other terminals? Yes, we have seen this. And think about this. A year ago, it was called BDS, right? Business Development Solution. Business development means you're going out looking for new people. And part of the BDS people, a lot of them were old recruiters. So they were looking for new contractors. Now it's called service provider support. So what does that mean? They want to support the existing service providers, therefore giving them expansion into other terminals. And they have made some hefty incentives to get people to start. Carrie, we've seen this in the contracts, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thousands and thousands of dollars of what they're calling startup, or Carrie calls it startup capital, and that's what it is. As far as, yeah, routes being open for years, definitely frustrating. I think one example would have been the Humboldt station. They probably couldn't get contracted there for 2 or 3 years. They threw some incentives out there, and I believe all but one of the areas now is under contract. So for most part, the contingency contractors are out of the building except for one. So I think you'll see incentives offered because paying that one-time incentive is a lot cheaper than paying contingency fees on stop after stop. That's basically a death by 1,000 cuts. Anything to add to that, Jeff?
It's been rumored for a while that they're gonna open up the purse strings. And I think at this point they're gonna have to. I think it's in it. Just pain isn't gonna open the purse strings. Engineering will. And when you look at how big these packages are and what's gonna happen and all that different thing, and trying to stick everything into 1,000 cube and everything else, it just changes the engineering model. And that in and of itself should lead to greater settlement.
Good question here. How can you identify ICs through DSW or other sources to prove from a data perspective that you are getting more or less ICs than you were previously? Bob, would this be in DRO with the cubic capacity?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a lot of times they don't have the correct number in, or I don't know. That's gonna have to be a play it by ear here.
Yeah, so that's a great answer. Willie, I would also reach out to your station, please, and see if they can involve one of the district engineers. And then you could teach us something here, because I think it is a good point. They should be able to tell you, what your average cubic capacity was on a dispatch as well, too. That they have access to the dimensions on every package that you've delivered. Okay, now we're going over to the Q&A. All righty, first. What package size will be delivered from Amazon to FedEx ground? More ICs for us? Jeff, you want that one?
What now? What is this?
Says what package
package?
sizes will be delivered from Amazon to FedEx ground? More ICs for us?
I don't know what that means.
I
What package
think this increase in business will, a large percentage of it will be incompatibles. How, as Jeff also pointed out, a lot of these are coming vendor direct. So what we hope is, yes, some of their product are ICs, but you should also see some compatible normal size packages through there as well. And with the network 2.0, the package size decreases with those. So can this all even out when you move to network 2.0? Maybe, but big is big. But yeah, that's going to be the majority of them.
Just keep in mind though that direct, man, I wish I could remember the name of that Amazon Direct, whatever it is. As Ken just said, it's not all incompatibles. There's actually quite a few regular packages. Sometimes a shipment comes with one big box and 8 little boxes, stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think if you're shipping a pull, chances are you've got supplies that go along with that pull. You've got filters, you've got chlorine, you've got the good stuff that comes with a pull. Not that I own one, but so. Does this mean FedEx will adjust their grading system regarding their efficiency for metals? Now that we have probably dispatched more trucks, that will affect our dispatch efficiently. Great question. And I think it was Thursday, I got notice from somebody that FedEx is reevaluating the way they give credit for straight truck dispatches and how that relates to your efficiency. So, Steve, that is under review at FedEx as we speak. And it's one of those, keep asking that question to your SPS people as well in the station, because it should be something that they could figure out. They've already got the data on it. It's just they need to make a decision on how they want to compensate for it. Anything to add to that, Jeff?
That's a good point. Actually, the entire engineering, if they're going to introduce another whatever percent of incompatible packages into the system, that blows the engineering models out the water. They're going to have to redo everything, including metals.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the best way to audit the large package mix percentage that FedEx uses to calculate the extra pay from the IC? Seem like we basically trust what they say. Yep. That's because what is a large package and what is an incompatible can be two different things. A 5-gallon drum is an incompatible that is not a large package. Now, do they collect extra money on it? Yes, because it's not in the box. Do you get that extra money? No. So it is one of those things that you have to trust. I don't necessarily agree with it. But I shy of you dimming or taking the dimensional weight average of every package, it would be next to impossible. Which that's why they have automated machines in the hub facilities and on the overhead as well as on the incompatible belts to gather that extra revenue. Okay. Would this lead to more LP routes, and what is your take on AVP routes to handle express volume? APV routes used properly can be very efficient and help your operation. I've seen them used in different ways, seen packages shuttled out to a group of drivers that handle just the small residentials, and it works well for that contractor. And they've got a lot of stem miles. To me, that works the best for this mix. And Andrew, you've got some rural areas. Does that mean you're going to have some 1030s out in those rural areas? Hopefully not. But using AVPs to come into the building, I think for the amount of volume they pull off of the belt and the amount of time that they take up in the morning, it can be difficult. Would you be better off using one of your vehicles to dispatch and then have them come back to get large package routes in the afternoon? Maybe. But it's one of those things that you can experiment with. The great thing about AVPs, you don't have a long-term commitment to that person. Jeff and Bob, anything to add to that?
I hate taking small packages off the vans. Fill them up, get the stops on, and they've both got their goods and their bads. It's figuring out what's going to work for you best. But even if it's an AVP that you're using as a stepping stone to be your next driver, then I like it. Get them used to the delivery part. They're doing the training on their own time for most part, as long as they get everything delivered. And then get them into the van next. So large package routes, those aren't bad. I'd much rather see a large package route than an AVP. This way everyone can get more stops on. The only thing with the large packages is that something you need two people in, so someone doesn't hurt themselves. No one likes doing the large packages. And if you do find someone who likes them, then drug test them. Or do you find something smaller with a lift gate on it? That way you've got one person and they're not hurting themselves. And you've got them the dolly with the stair steppers on it so it can go up the stairs easier. Figure out what is going to work best for your area.
Bob, that's a great point about those stair stepper dollies. That's going to come into play here with this increased business from Amazon. Heavier and heavier packages are going to be going to the third floor And do you have the right equipment for your drivers that are gonna have those packages on board? And we got an answer to your question, Jeff. I think it's called multi-channel fulfillment, MCF, when Amazon ships 3PL directly to the customer. So you're muted.
I was gonna say, I thought they called it something else, but
Yeah.
I'll buy
See?
that.
Okay. You were muted or speechless. It was one of those two. So,
Both.
okay. Next question. What is FRO? FRO is DRO. It's FedEx route optimization since they bought the company that supplied DRO. So now it's FedEx route optimization. Who do I need to talk to about preload loading my vans? Here's a question that dates back to 1985. My terminal is an old home delivery building. They are still loading the packages on ground, and my driver has to load the truck. Those type of facilities do exist throughout the network. One in the Atlanta area basically just opened up. They say they don't, but I've noticed the compensation levels are a little bit higher there. And also the on-road hours that FedEx uses for your metals calculation or for efficiency drops from 8.33 down to 6.5 as a goal for on-road hours. So it should be built in there. And needless to say, if a truck can only be on the road 6.5 hours compared to 8.33, it can't generate as much revenue if they have the same revenue per stop. So therefore, the revenue per stop has to be higher in one of those facilities. But what you could do is talk to the station, see if they have any plans to put material handling equipment in to upgrade. That actually happened over in the Clinton, Pennsylvania facility within the last 6 months. So I would talk to the station management to see if they have any plans to upgrade the material handling equipment in the facility. Anything to add, Jeff?
After that.
Any dates anticipation for Amazon volume? I think we covered that. Think June 1st. Because it's a new fiscal year, and what better way to celebrate the new year without an Amazon incompatible? There'll be confetti, horns, and streamers. So I would think amongst that around that date. Okay. All righty. We handled a lot of questions today.
I think you got there. You can go over a little bit. I think there's some more stuff in the chat.
In chat, it says Steve was thinking the same thing as Willie, and Willie confirmed.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. There you
I
go.
think we got that addressed. Some excellent questions today. And once again, this is a significant emotional event. So it triggered great communication, and it is a significant event in your operation. So said, start to do the basics. If you can get that cost sheet or the exchange of information sheet from the station management, get that completed now. So what your cost per dispatch is now, and then it can be reevaluated after the onslaught of the incompatible party starts from Amazon.
Hey, Ken, we're going to have something on that next week. Another way to help fill out your cost sheet, or maybe another way to do this whole thing. So it's coming. That's going to be of huge importance now.
Excellent. So stay tuned for that. We look forward to seeing everybody next week. If we don't talk to you before then, please have a safe and profitable week. Thank you very much.